Welcome everybody, I am 6am Comics, and this is reviewing my 9-year-old's comics. Even though he's 10 now. I need to change the name, but I feel like I've already kind of established a brand here, so apologies Nolan, you are forever 9 years old. I ain't changing it. Anyway, last week I got a request in the comments to do another Spectacular Black Widow review. And because this channel is so small, it's not that hard for me to read through all of the ones of comments that I get on my videos. Feel free to change that situation at any time and, do the subscribe thing. Asking for subs just feels dirty. I'm sorry. Anyway, as I was saying though, you asked for more Spectacular Black Widow, and so let us take a look at issue number 3, Killer Bee, part 1. Let's go! Now, full disclosure, this isn't the original comic. It's a reprint because most paper products that end up on the floor of Nolan's bedroom are quickly shredded to pieces under a pile of costumes and Lego monstrosities. Luckily, I scanned the pages before the original would succumb to Nolan's reckless preservation techniques. However, he does owe me for the printer ink. In any case, let's discuss the overall presentation. Unlike the majority of Worldwide Comics products, this issue, and the one which follows, are not only presented in black and white, but the cover art is also lacking in any color. Despite his many skill sets, time management has always been a struggle in this young artist's repertoire, and being that he had already spent the majority of his afternoon completing this beautiful 2-page spread, he had to spend the final 5 minutes of his free time quickly cranking out this cover art before I demanded he begin his math homework. The rush job to complete this issue also becomes evident as you get into the interiors and realize that his Sharpie was rapidly running out of ink. But what Nolan lacks in time management, he makes up for in efficiency, and despite the dying marker and the ticking timer, he still managed to complete this 8-page issue with seconds to spare. Now, if only he'd applied that efficiency to his math homework, maybe we wouldn't have been up until 10 o'clock at night mastering long division. While still maintaining the darker tone established in the Spectacular Black Widow series, some more fantastical elements were introduced in this issue. Specifically the inclusion of the League of Superheroes, a team featured in a novella we reviewed a few months back. With this crossover event, Nolan officially introduced these beloved characters into the expanded universe of the Spectacular Black Widow, and with them, a much more intimidating variant of the popular villain Frank F. Frank. But before I get into my thoughts on these story elements, let's take a look at the story itself. We begin with a dramatic shot of Black Widow jumping through the air, leaping into action. Carnage, leader of the radioactive League of Superheroes, and Frank F. Frank were locked up in battle high atop the World Trade Center, neither one willing to give an inch. That was 2 minutes ago. Outside, Mark Marianelli, otherwise known as Black Widow, was watching high atop a tall building above. That was 30 seconds ago. Frank detonated a nuclear explosion 2 seconds ago. This is now. I feel like I've read this somewhere before. Nah. Geez, is it D-Day 2? Somebody's got explosive diarrhea. I like that his spirits are up despite the fact that a nuclear explosion just took out whatever city they're battling in. Hey, if you don't have your sense of humor, what do you have? Also, this kind of explains why the League of Superheroes has included the word radioactive in their name. We turn the page to a beautiful 2-page spread, something we haven't seen Nolan attempt since Super Nolan 1. I'm honestly torn on which spread I love more. While the sideways cyborg cowboy from Super Nolan is a legendary illustration, I think this image of Frank F. Frank donning his Killer Bee persona, battling the Black Widow in the League of Superheroes, has the potential to be equally, if not more, iconic. I suppose time will only tell. As I said, Frank F. Frank, as the title of this issue implies, is dressed in his Killer Bee outfit, something we last saw in Super Nolan 1. Although given that this takes place in an alternate timeline from those comics, the mask is slightly altered, and Frank's physique has experienced a massive upgrade. I wonder where Nolan got the inspiration to make Frank look like such a towering juggernaut of a man. We're given our first glimpse of the League. Miguel, John, aka Human Spider, Carnage, Quick, and Max. Joining them in the fight, we see our title hero, Black Widow. Killer Bee, sensing the presence of Black Widow, glances over his shoulder. "Oh, look who just crashed the concert. Ain't that puke?" Black Widow, always with a snappy comeback, replies, "Puke is what you are." Suddenly, "I've got your back." Quick begins running circles around Killer Bee, stirring up a tornado, launching our villain into the air, knocking his mask off. He screams, "Aye!" Unfazed, but clearly more agitated, Frank mumbles, "Wanna play rough, eh?" Black Widow, never running from a fight, socks Frank in the jaw. Yup, bam! Definitely. Invigorated by Black Widow's confidence, the rest of the League joins in on the pummeling. "Take this, and some of these, and that!" Frank grabs Black Widow by the throat and attempts to choke him out while enduring the assault. Despite the strangulation from the beefy Frank, Black Widow breaks free and punches Frank in the face with all his might. The League looks on in shock as Black Widow goes full rage mode. Still not down, Frank taunts, "I'm gonna deck your halls, bub."
"I'm gonna deck your halls, bub."
However, Black Widow's overconfidence quickly becomes his undoing as Frank retaliates with one simple swipe of his right hand. Black Widow gets slapped so hard his glove gets torn off and he slams into a nearby car, setting off its alarm. He analyzes his busted arm. Our hero crawls away from the wreckage. "Oh, my back. Gosh, dude's a lot stronger than I expected. Next time, I dance." To be continued. What I like about this issue is that even though it's filled with guest appearances, the focus is never taken away from the title character, Black Widow. Nolan understands that the key to a good crossover is not to outshine the main character, but to use those guest heroes to complement his experience. If we wanted to see a story about the League, Nolan would simply just make another League of Superheroes tale, which we're still waiting on. Ahem. Speaking of guest appearances, let's discuss Frank F. Frank. What a fascinating character. To date, he's the only villain who has appeared in multiple worldwide comic storylines, first appearing in Super Nolan 1 as the enemy turned ally, then making a follow-up appearance in the League of Superheroes novella as the main antagonist, and finally working his way into the spectacular Black Widow universe. However, all of Frank's variations have created much debate about the many timelines of the worldwide universe. Take for instance his character arc in the original Super Nolan series, an obsessed villain determined to destroy the hot new hero on the scene, who is shown mercy by said hero and turned good. Now let's have a look at his arc in the League of Superheroes, a villain, again obsessed with destroying a team of superheroes, who, after some time travel shenanigans, gets sentenced to 100 years in prison. Super Nolan Reboot Issue Number 1, a decrepit old man in a robot suit, obsessed with destroying the new superhero on the scene. Now we see Frank F. Frank, with an entirely new physique, battling the League of Superheroes in the spectacular Black Widow timeline. I think Frank may be more important to the worldwide comics universe than previously thought. There's two established timelines in Nolan's comic universe. The main timeline, featuring the original Black Widow and Super Nolan series, and the rebooted timeline, featuring the spectacular Black Widow and the rebooted Super Nolan series. As I mentioned before, Frank was involved in time-traveling shenanigans in the League of Superheroes novella. It's strongly insinuated that Frank altered the timeline when we're briefly introduced to an ancient Amish man with an interesting last name, of Franklin. Perhaps this was the cause for the rebooted Black Widow and Super Nolan series. It would explain the physical deviations between the skinnier, younger Frank F. Frank and the beefier, older Frank F. Frank. Now, just wait until we get into Worldwide War. That's a whole other can of worms. We'll get there. Back to the comic at hand, I think it's worth noting that we're finally seeing Black Widow come into his own as a hero. While the first issue established Maxwell's origin, the second issue dealt with him overcoming his lack of confidence in himself following his initial defeat at the hands of Stopwatch. This issue, however, he has no reservations about jumping into battle with such an intimidating foe as the Killer Bee. We see his quip-filled confidence on full display as he insults and antagonizes our antagonist, putting on such a display of combative mastery that even the League of Superheroes paused their engagement to watch and appreciate the spectacle of his battle with Frank. Even following the unexpected counterattack from Frank, which led to our hero injuring his hand and crashing into a car, he still rises from his temporary defeat and confidently prepares for round 2. Like Rocky Balboa, this is a man who simply won't stay down. Also, let's just take a moment to drink in these sequential panels in which we see Nolan flex his artistic muscles to give us a brilliantly choreographed fight scene between Black Widow and the Killer Bee. While other Worldwide Comics properties exaggerate action in a more cartoonish manner, the Spectacular line of comics has always taken a more grounded approach to the motion displayed, and this is no exception. You can almost feel every slap, kick, and strangle. While the use of color can always fill in visual blanks and make the art more flashy, solid line work on a black and white comic demands clarity and precision, and I admire comics like these for their attention to detail. Now, the real question is, will we see this degree of artistic focus continue in part 2? All right. Well, there you go. Spectacular Black Widow, number 3, part 1. Next week, I can't leave you hanging, so I guess next week we're going to look at part 2. Anyway, I'm going to keep it brief. I don't know if you've noticed how scrubby I look tonight. I've been sitting in the Texas heat watching my kids play baseball for the last 2 hours. So, yeah, I'm going to go, sit in front of the fridge. All right, good night.